Welcome to Rhyme and Reason, which is our podcast, and I am your host, Wanda Reid. Now, today we have a very special guest. He is my grandson, but his name is Joseph Reid Jr. And I'm going to let him introduce himself to you, just like I would if we were doing just a normal one.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Joseph Reid. Like she said, one of her grandchildren, one of her oldest grandchildren, might be one of her favorite. I don't know about that, but I am one of the oldest. I'm the oldest of 11 kids between my father and mother, and so as far as leadership goes, just who I am, that's something that has really been a character trait I've tried to push a lot recently. Graduated in 2020 from high school, and right now just on the career, just finding my purpose and just trying to better myself each and every day, becoming the man I'm supposed to become, and allowing God to sit there and guide me.
Our topic today will be chosen, being chosen. What does being chosen mean?
For me, I believe to be chosen is to be picked despite not wanting to be picked, or despite credentials around you, or the things, the situations you have going on. Like whatever the situation may be, whether you don't have it, whether you're not educated enough, whether you're not in the right position, the right time, you're too stressed, you don't want to prioritize it. Being chosen is that no matter what, you are already qualified for it.
Set apart for whatever that thing is that you're supposed to do. So, in reference to you, do you feel like you're chosen?
Yes, ma'am. I do believe that I am chosen in a few different ways. Yes.
Expound on that, please.
Not to get too deep, but when I was younger, I used to debate science and God, because in school they would tell you to believe in one thing, in church they would tell you to believe in another. And I used to really struggle with if I was important or if I had a reason to be here. And so they used to tell us the Big Bang Theory, it just happened out of nowhere. There was no purpose to it. And so I fail to believe that, because I know that God chose me to be here in this very point in time. From my name, from the events that I go through on a day-to-day basis, to the people that sit there and piss me off purposefully because of what they want to do and I have to choose to do right, or the people that help me out, not even knowing that it was helping me out, right? Or the decisions I have to make. And so I believe that I was put in this moment right here on purpose. I believe for each and every person, it's the same exact thing, because I don't believe that we have a God that just does anything out of order. I believe he is a God of like very, very, not only uniqueness, but order. He does things in an order, in a fashion that he knows why he's going to do it. But to speak on why I'm chosen, just from the things that I've been through, I think in life that I didn't think made sense, that I didn't understand, that probably to sit there was like, well, why would you do this and why would you do that, or I don't know how you made it through this or how you made it through that. For instance, being the oldest of 11 kids, it can be very tough to feel a level of pressure to, I guess, be perfect and to be right or to do the right thing. And I think it's hard to know what is right, because right is different for everybody. Right is in a period of time. So just because you're right in your head is right to you doesn't mean it's right to me or right to what God really wants, right? It depends on what God is trying to squeeze out of that very moment from you and me. For instance, I was in a hospital for a very rare disease when I was a very young, not very young, but when I was a young child, early high school, late middle school. Had to go through some surgeries, lost a whole bunch of weight. I felt very misunderstood. Didn't know why I was in that moment, because I couldn't pinpoint like a straight answer as to why I came from here to here for a very long time. And I think the biggest thing was understanding you don't need to know why you was from here to here. You need to know that you got from here to here. And so that you have to allow the faith to cover you through, and God will give you the answers later on.
Okay, so we serve a strategic God.
Yes.
Because He is a strategic God, no one is on this earth by coincidence.
100%.
The
Yes.
word says that He knows the plans that He has for us, that we
Mm-hmm.
will live, that we will prosper. He also says that He knows when we were here before we were even formed in our mother's womb. So
Yes.
you being the 11 or the first of 11 children, that is something. Uh, and it does deal with leadership, but also deals with responsibility, makes you accountable. There's no way that you can be that age and be the elder of everybody and not be accountable. You also would have to be aware of how you carry yourself because those 10 under you are looking at how you respond. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So to be chosen by God, you're set apart, but then, a specific family God chooses us for. So how
Okay.
did you know, or how do you know that if there's a calling on your life or that you're chosen?
I think one of the biggest factors for me I can speak on is not being able to fit in. Um, I think sometimes you try to minimize yourself around people you want to be with, and so like it's easy to like try to lose yourself in a crowd. And I did that a lot in middle school and high school, not knowing myself and afraid to necessarily be alone or have that moment to understand who Joseph was. So I would surround myself with people, although we might not be really good friends or have much in common. I would kind of like shrink myself, act a certain way that I wasn't supposed to, do certain things I wasn't supposed to, just to not feel that void of being alone, you know. And I think that's one of the biggest things because ultimately, you know, it's wrong. It doesn't sit well in your spirit. It's not something that you're proud of, but you were more afraid of being alone because you thought there was nobody there for you. Um, and I think that's one of the biggest things, just minimizing who you are as a person for like the satisfaction of, I guess, not being alone.
A temporary fix is what I would think that it would be.
Yeah.
I also would say that I think it sometimes has to do with the fear of rejection. Everybody likes to be loved and appreciated and that kind of thing, but comes a point in time where that is not really an option. Is it because you just knew within? Like for me, I just knew God loved me
Mm-hmm.
from a child. I can't remember how long. I just always knew it. But just out of curiosity, do you deal with a lot of conviction, being convicted with the things that your choices? Because now we're talking about fitting in, but you talked about fitting in as a middle schooler, so that would have been
Mm-hmm.
13, 14, and 15, and that kind of thing. But now you are a grown man. Do you still struggle with fitting in, or have you come to grips with the fact that if you do, you do; if you don't, you don't? How do you feel about that?
It's funny you asked me that because I had to apologize to God yesterday because I still do struggle with fitting in, and I feel like now I'm so comfortable with being alone. I kind of treat every relationship the same. Sometimes I don't reach out first. I can be very poor at communicating to, I guess, initiate hanging out or just, the fellowship and spending time together. And sometimes I feel like I treat God the same way unintentionally because I'm so closed off from others. And I just had to have a moment with him because it's not that it was ever intentional, but I had to realize, although it's not intentional, it's still what I'm doing. Um, and that I had to acknowledge the fact that, you know, you have to be willing to open up to God. It's not that God doesn't want to open up to you, and God's not like anyone else because He's never left you, never made you change, never sat there and been that person to shrink yourself for. Um, so yeah, I mean, I struggle with it now sometimes, but I don't know if I look at it as a struggle. I kind of embrace it. I feel like I just might be on a different path than a lot of people, a lot of my peers, and I'm okay with that. It took some accepting for a very long time, but I'm in a better place now because I feel like I have more of a plan for what I want for myself that might not align with everyone else's.
To have a plan for yourself is great, but God knows the plans that He has for us. And I
Yes,
don't think that is anything that you or any of us do not do or have not done.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes we don't treat God as if He is our Father. We don't treat Him as if He's our friend. We don't treat Him as if He knows all. So even the things that we may choose to do in secret or not disclose,
mm-hmm,
knows. He knows your thoughts. Before we even think of, He knows what we're going to do before we do it. He knew that you would come and apologize to Him. But understanding what all of that looks like and who God is, and who you are and who He made you to be. So nothing that happens is a mistake or a coincidence. Like you spoke of middle school and dealing with something. Would you mind sharing, or do you want to share it at some level? You don't even have to share it in great deal. How it impacted you. Or
mm-hmm.
do you think that's what brought it to the forefront to say that God has set me aside for a purpose and I'm still here?
I've had a few of those encounters where I felt like God revealed Himself in my life, but I won't say that was like something that got me to turn a full 180. Uh, so prior to being in a hospital and everything like that, like I said, it was early middle school. I wasn't the best in sports. Didn't have a whole bunch of friends. I felt like I stood out already, right? So then, fast forward to the situation. I got diagnosed with this disorder called achalasia. It is a rare autoimmune disease where your body's fighting itself and doesn't relax the muscles in the stomach and esophagus to digest and break down the food. And in turn, because of that, stomach acid is built up, kind of like heartburn. It sometimes make you throw up, and yeah, it's called achalasia. If you want to read the details, I don't want to get too much into it. And so I was in the hospital for what was it, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. I was out for a little while, came back and had the surgery. Fast forward later on into that year, I was able to get into sports again. I had gained some confidence. But the confidence I had gained kind of made me conceited, in a sense that where I was like, oh, it's all me, all me, all me. Where I got myself into more trouble in high school towards the end, like my senior year. So it was a very grateful moment in the moment, but I think I'm still recognizing what God did for me as a child now, being more appreciative. And then there was, like, of course, more moments growing up, later into college, and still today, where I'm still recognizing God, and He's still like pushing me, pressing me forward. But that one moment, I will say, is something that really turned me around, like getting me started to really understand what God was doing for me.
In my memory of it, I can remember a few different things that were going on, and one of them was not knowing what the problem was. Emotions of, of fear or just nervous, just the uneasiness of it all, or to see both of your parents there and then they are with you. And, I can remember at that particular point, there were your siblings that were also present at different points in time. So it had to be a lot to digest at 14 years old. But based off of what you've done so far, let's fast forward and you let the listeners as well know where you are today, whether you're talking about where your medical is. What you
As of right now, I can't classify myself as a bodybuilder, right? I've only competed once, but I have competed in a bodybuilding show. I, of course, wrestled all throughout high school, played football, ran track. But as far as outside of there, I've taken bodybuilding serious. I've done personal training. I've done coaching, as far as wrestling goes. I really would say that has helped me appreciate my body and understand that, you know, my body's a temple, and I can honor God through it as well. And so I take the gym serious because it was something that I never thought I would be able to be good at. Right? If you look at me now, I'm strong. Right? I'm built well. I put time in, but it was a point in time in my life where I couldn't do 30 push-ups. I couldn't do 20. I couldn't do 10. I used to fear working out because of the challenge it used to bring in front of me, and it used to like kind of scare me to be against that level of adversity. And so we talk about being chosen, and that's I guess the focal point of the message today. But adversity comes with being chosen, because it's going to be a lot of obstacles in your ways for you to reach that calling that God wants you to reach. And so whether it was when I was 11, 12 years old and I didn't want to do push-ups, or when I was 14 and I was sick, or when I was 16, 17 and I was wrestling and we went through COVID, or whether it's now 21, almost 22, and I'm a personal trainer doing bodybuilding, trying to inspire others. It's all about being able to push past those plateaus. And that's something that is very hard to do if you limit yourself mentally. And so that's something that has brought me that, like I said, I coach. That's something that drew me towards coaching, because I remember being a young male and I couldn't see tomorrow. I was so stuck on today and today's strength that I would place that into tomorrow, right? I was like, well, I'm not big enough or strong enough or good enough to wrestle or to run that race or to make that tackle. And I would limit myself and shrink myself down to what I saw in the mirror. And it impacted the way I played tremendously. And so I had to accept that I wanted to be better. I had to accept that I wanted to be great. And the cost of greatness, you have to sacrifice something. You have to sacrifice the willingness to surrender that weakness. You have to give it up. You have to let it go. And so, yeah, now, like, well, for instance, I compete again in September, trying to bring something home, personal training, and just I'm in a way better physical standpoint. Like I said, I don't look like what I've been through, especially physically. I'm blessed. I'm blessed behind that, because God has granted me the opportunity to just highlight Him through the things that I've done.
Okay, so just a quick question though. Do you
Yes.
have, are you on social media? Do you have a platform? Are you on Instagram or any of those type things? And if you aren't, then how would someone reach out to you if they wanted to reach out to you?
So my Instagram is Joe Reid Fit. It's all lowercase. That's my Instagram. If you wanted to reach out, of course, DM, comment underneath. And then also I'm mainly on there, and then TikTok. And my TikTok handle is JR2Fit. So Instagram is Joe Reid Fit. TikTok is JR2Fit. And yeah, if you ever just want to reach out, just DM me, comment under one of the posts. If you have a question, don't feel afraid to, ask.
Okay, so now that you got that slight plug in, what I want to know is adversity.
Yes.
Adversity. Life is filled with a lot of adversity and a lot of situations and all those things that we all deal with. But do you think that as a young man that there is more adversity for you than say other people?
It's depending on race, where you're growing up at, your situation. It could, of course, be different. But then also, again, the tie into being chosen, I think there's hierarchies to it, right? I think sometimes our callings are different for each and every person. There's a different importance and different level as far as what mine might be versus yours. Doesn't make it less important, but the challenge is greater, right? Mm-hmm. So right. I believe it just depends on the person. But as far as I can say for myself, I will say it has been difficult in certain ways. But I also look at that as God knowing what I'm able to handle. Because everybody's limits is different, right? My 100% might be someone else's 150. And I believe that we're all like cars, right? Some of us run on 87, some of us run on 89. I believe I run on 93. And I say that because I kind of embrace it now. It was a point in time where I used to run from the adversity, run from the challenge. I used to run from the extra conditioning. I used to run from the extra push-ups. And then now I'm looking to do them first. I'm looking to start early, leave late. I'm looking to make a way when it might not be a way possible, or the way that it is uncomfortable. So, like I said, everybody's temperament is different. Everybody can't handle what I can handle. And there's a reason behind that, because some people didn't go through what I went through. And there's plenty of people that have went through more than me, and they could handle more. Now, whether they embrace it and they step into it or not is on them, right? Because I mean, I feel like a lot of times we look at life like, well, why is God doing this to me? And it's me. And it's like, why not? And so we got to get out the victim mentality of believing that everything is done to hurt you and to harm you and to bully you and beat you down, and instead to build you up and to give you ammo. Whole time you're thinking God is shooting you down. Whole time he's giving you bullets to shoot back, right? Giving you reasons why to sit there and load your gun to keep on fighting. So you have to be able to kind of reverse your mind on how you're processing the things you're going through. Yeah, you're going through it now. Yeah, it's tough now. But once you get through it, because you will, because God wouldn't push you through anything that you couldn't get through. Now you got that. You've got that forever ammunition and motivation. You know what? Let's get through it. So I feel like there's a lot of people that are stuck in that wave that struggle because they don't want to look at it like that. They don't want to look at life as the opportunity instead of the punishment, and use that as motivation. Yeah.
I was thinking back about just a few things based off of what you were saying, and I am thinking about victim versus being victorious. We cannot be in two places at the same time. If you're going to be a victim, then you cannot expect to be victorious, because you're going to stay in that victim mentality. Woe is me. And I do agree, woe is me. My rule of thumb has been, we all have challenges, so we can go to a woe is me, but you can only stay there 3 days when I'm dealing with it, or when people that I know that I am concerned about, and in touch with. That's the only place. You can't stay in that position. That is not a position that we stay in as people who love God or have a relationship with God. And the thing is, as you grow and as your relationship grows, what you are chosen for will continue to show itself. You will get better and better, and we all will. So I don't even want the listeners to even think that being chosen does not come without challenges.
Yeah, I was just going to highlight that although the finish line of being chosen is you with your hands up celebrating hip hip parade, it's a long battle ahead of you trying to get to that finish line of going through the adversity and obstacles. And sometimes it might look like everybody starts off on this race and you got to go a secret path to get to the same spot. You got to go through the solo road that it got holes in the ground. You got to run around rocks. You got to sit there and jump over a bridge. Shoot, the bridge might be broke. You got to sit there and climb down, climb back up. And like I said, it's easy to look at it like God is punishing you. It's easy to look like that. It's easy to sit there and say, well, why me? Why me? It's even easy to sit there and get upset at God because you didn't ask for this. I think a lot of us take for granted knowing that, like I said, God puts us in a position that we're supposed to be put in. I believe that anything is by mistake, right? And I think sometimes because you want to pinpoint, or why this, you'll lose yourself in the process of understanding because you're trying to, well, why this God and why this God? And if God doesn't give you that answer, which typically he won't give you that answer, because if you knew the why, then you would do it. But maybe God wants you to do it because he wants you to have faith in him well enough to get you through it, right? So is your faith big enough to sit there and push you past the not knowing? Or is your faith only good enough to serve God because you know? That's like serving God because when he's good, but when he's bad, I don't know him. I don't know God. We're not friends. I don't like him, right? When I don't get what I want, when I don't get the things I prayed for that last night, tomorrow, I don't know God. But when I get the things that I need, thank you, Lord. We can't sit there and be two-faced and lukewarm and inconsistent. Even though I might not know why I'm going through this, even though I didn't ask, like, okay, God, this is hard. This is tough. And I think I'm a pretty mentally strong person, right? God, I'm struggling. I'm tough. I'm weak. Sometimes in those moments, I have found the most strength by just crying to God, asking for, like, telling him and being vulnerable. On this image of being so strong and so proud to be able to carry everything by ourselves. And so God might let that rock get a little heavier on purpose, where you're sitting there just holding it up and you're shaking and it's crushing you, you know, and it's like more of a, well, let me help you and just surrender it to me, right? Instead of trying to be so proud and strong that, oh, I can do it all by myself. I got it figured out. If I don't got it figured out now, I'll figure it out later. And it's like, that is not what strength is. I think the strength is being able to be vulnerable and in control of the situation, to vocalize how you're feeling and be able to speak on it. The person that cannot show emotion is the same person that will not be quiet about it, right? So the person that's nonchalant, the person that doesn't care, that is so laid back and too cool for school to show any emotion and not care about anything, is just as weak or weaker than a person that tells everybody their business as if everybody cares. Because you cannot control, because you cannot acknowledge, because you cannot accept those feelings, you rather turn them off. And God gave them to you for a reason. So to be cold-hearted and nonchalant and not acceptive and non-responsive, and you can't acknowledge any of those things, you are missing out on the true purpose of those feelings. Because sometimes, although it hurts, the hurt is supposed to not only motivate you to change, but it's supposed to open your eyes for bigger and better.
So we're talking about being chosen and what all of that looks like, and strength. And there is strength in being chosen. Do you find it to have a profound responsibility?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I think that it comes with consequences. When you don't understand the gift that you have, a lot of times other people do. And so whether they try to dim your light, share the light with you because they just want to be in your space, you have to be careful of the places you allow yourself in. I truly believe that everything that is physical was once spiritual, or at least spoken into existence. So the same way that our words are very powerful, I believe the energy that you keep around you, the people you keep around you, is very powerful as well. Because although you might not speak something on your life, I believe other people can't speak stuff on you. Right? I think it's very important and you have to be very cautious of the people you keep around and what they say and how they act, because I believe that it can affect who you are. So I think it's a cost of being more responsible. I think it's a cost of being able to say no more. And no is hard. No is a very hard thing for me to say sometimes, especially for people you love, right? Because you want to sit there and provide and help, especially when you feel like you can. Because it's like, well, if you can help them and you choose not to, then you're part of the problem. Yeah, I've heard that too many times. And I think a part of the problem is trying to save or trying to help everybody as if that's your role and your job. I don't think that was ever your job to sit there and break your back for anyone. And when I say that, I say that as like putting that person so much before yourself that you're in risk and jeopardizing everything else. Be very careful with saying yes to everything.
I would agree because I think a lot of times people will take advantage of the fact that if they see that you will do a yes to help them and all of that all the time,
Mhm.
then they will keep coming. But you have to know that you have the permission of God a lot of times to help people because everything is not financial. That we as individuals all are here with a purpose. We all have a purpose. Whether or not we do the thing for our purpose, that's a whole different thing because it comes to choice. But God didn't inadvertently allow any of us for us just to not have purpose. That's one. Two, when you're looking at your purpose versus somebody else's purpose, or this person has this gift, I find a lot of times you can be chosen, but people want the gifts of the other person and not the
Mhm.
gift that God has given them. To be chosen by God, it involves sacrifice, it involves obedience, it involves the willingness to trust Him. It makes us be an example. We need to
Mhm.
be an example uh, for whomever we are, which is in our circle or outside of our circle. We are to be able to show love and know that we are supposed to be like God. We are not gods, but we are supposed to be like Him because we are His children. I would want to know, what would you want the takeaway to be for the listeners? What would you have the listeners to know?
So it's I, it's a few brief things. Like I know we've talked a lot. Well, not necessarily a lot, but I brought up the fact that I compete. I'm in shape now. Life is way better from a physical standpoint. But I can't thank God enough for the things He's done for me mentally and spiritually. Going through some of those events when I was younger, I did have a lot of depression because I didn't understand it. And so at one point in time, I used the gym to escape as like a place where I could just let go. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that you can use better ways to distract yourself than other things. But I had to have this conversation with God. It was very tough. The difference between addiction and discipline. And so what I came to the conclusion was, or what God showed me was that to be disciplined is in every area of your life, right? When you're able to sit there and apply all these values and skills to every area of your life, right? And for me, I was addicted to the gym. So I was able to apply every skill of waking up on time or making the time for the gym, eating the food, sleeping and posing and cardio. I could apply every skill of time management, accountability, hard work ethic, and everything into the gym. But when it came to outside of it, I failed to be accountable. I failed to have that same discipline. I was more of a motivated person, so it would be up and down to get things done. And the issue with it was is because I was idolizing the gym. I was allowing myself to get lost in something I believe God gave me purpose of, right? Something that He gave me, something to build myself up and reinvent the person I was when I was younger, or who I thought I was at least. So I think one thing is to always apply those disciplines in every area of your life, and don't get lost in the things that make you comfortable, the things that help you avoid the dailies of life and the stressors of it, because ultimately life is hard for everybody. But if you can't ever accept where you are, you can't ever accept the blessing that God wants you to have and where you're going. And so if you keep on running from that mental stress, and you keep on running from that those things that are tough and going on out of your control, if you keep on stressing, that is going to be it's going to be hard and it's going to be tough. That's one thing. Two is the power of perception and perspective, right? Like you said, that everybody has adversity, everybody has a calling. And so although you might be looking at, if this is a book, you might be looking at the very last chapter for some people. They might be right there at the end of the race, about to win. They might have already won, right? Very close to it. Well, as far as you might feel like you're here. And I think the power of perspective is that the day, like the going through life on a daily basis is about you not only growing closer to God and figuring out your purpose, but enjoying that day. Like today is a present. It's a gift, right? So too many times we look into the future or look in someone else's book trying to read what they wrote. Or not necessarily what they wrote, but what God wrote for them and what they're going through, right? And instead of being the author of our own story and the narrator of it and trying to figure out what we have going on for ourselves, we try to throw ourselves in other people's shoes in better situations. But oftentimes you don't realize what that person goes through on the back end, but it took them to get to that point. The responsibility to sit there and keep it, right? And so we always want to sit there and say, well, why not me, God? And why didn't I have this? And I thought I was good, God, and they deserve this more than me. And, we're sitting there trying to convince God of why we should deserve that blessing. And then we should understand the blessing that God has for you could be greater. Or not even that it could be. The blessing that God has for you is for you. So it is greater. Mm-hmm. You don't realize the blessing that they have can come with a whole bunch of responsibility, or what they had to go through to just get to that point in time. So always trying to have the perspective is that God knows what is for you and what is best. Do what God is supposed to be doing, right? God is going to put us in a place that we're supposed to be. He's going to give us the correct opportunities. Embrace him. Like, for instance, grandma, I know I haven't referred to you that this entire time, but you're in a different area of your life than me, right? One, you're older and you've experienced more than me, right? So your level of wisdom is naturally greater. Now, at the cost of you having more wisdom, you've had to experience more. So the level of hurt could have been greater. Although the joy of life could have been 10 times greater, you had to go through some of the trials and tribulations, probably more than I have, right? You've lived more life. You've experienced more. You had to learn more. You had to accept more. You had to adapt more. So for me to sit there and be like, well, I want that level of wisdom, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you pray to God for, because then he'll put that on you and you don't know what you have to go through. And so I feel like just having that perspective through adversity. Life is going to be hard. We're all chosen, and God always wants us to sit there and live the purpose he has out for us. So have that perspective in the back of your mind that God knows what he's doing. God's putting us on the right path, and God is going to sit there and get us where we need to be. That in any time, in any season of our life, God has already prepared us for it. When it doesn't seem like anything's right, when we're not having a fruitful season, or we're ready to harvest anything, right? We're not in the season where things are making sense to us, and it's like we're scrounging for the scraps and the crumbs, it feels like, because we're struggling. Ultimately, God is preparing us, or has already prepared us to withstand that level of adversity. So to tie in everything that I said, from perspective to adversity to chosen, like we said, when you're chosen and God has a calling on your life, it's not an accident. You don't serve an accidental God that is poof, you don't serve a genie that you get 3 wishes. No, you serve a God that has had the plan written out before you knew what a plan was, before the plan of you being alive was even here. The plan has already been put into set in stone. It's just for you to go out there and grab your book and read at the pace that God wants you to read it at.
Absolutely.
Every single day.
Absolutely. I am sorry that our conversation is about to be cut short, but I just thank you so much for coming on Rhyme and Reason and your perspective and giving us all this wisdom from such an awesome young man. And thank you for the topic of being chosen. You have a great day. I'll have you on again sometimes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You have a great one. Everyone have a good one. Thank you.